Today on the Prior Transformation, I talk about the Oracle problem, which is a problem that exists in the blockchain space and shows up time and time again when it comes to looking at white papers and different blockchains and ICOs and those kind of things. So this is something you want to have in your head and just a different a way of thinking about some of these blockchain problems. I'm going to do my best to articulate it. Before we get started, just make sure you subscribe if you're not a subscriber. You can go to the website, jsfour.com/podcast, and let's get started. Welcome to the Prior Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Smoots. In this podcast, we explore, actually, there's no we, it's just I. I'm the only person here. And really, I just ramble for 2 or 3 minutes on a technology or business topic. And occasionally, I'll interview some smart folks. If you like that kind of thing, enjoy. There's one pretty fairly large problem in the blockchain space that I don't think gets enough attention. And just this quick shout out to the CTO of SFox who hit me to this concept. And I can't. He sent me a talk and I cannot find it, so I'm not sure exactly what it is. But the idea, the limitation of the blockchain is a concept and a class of problem that is called the Oracle problem. And what that really ends up meaning is the blockchain is a closed system, which means that all of the data that happens inside the blockchain already exists in the blockchain. You can't really add things to it because if you add something, you're trusting the source of the addition. So let's just kind of talk about a specific example. So let's say we have a blockchain setup where I am trying to settle or be an escrow service or something like that. The way the Oracle problem kind of rears its ugly head in this scenario is, I decide to trade with somebody. I trade Ethereum for a house or something. And then we have, an escrow provider or somebody out there who ends up, being the person or the entity or the contract or whatever that ends up confirming that the actual transaction is taking place and then, trading hands basically. So the problem is, how do you know that I actually received the keys for the house? You'd have to have a third party out there somewhere that would effectively give confirmation to the blockchain that I've received the keys to indicate to this contract to actually do to release the transaction of the funds or whatever. And as soon as you do that, you're really kind of introducing another third party anyway. So you might as well just have done the escrow transaction through that person because you're trusting that they are as good as their word. They're actually they're not lying about me receiving the keys. So that's where the big problem with this whole with a lot of the ICOs and a lot of the stuff ends up happening is people come up with these really great ideas which were phenomenal, but the thing is you always kind of end up needing to trust somebody. And another great example is there was an identity token, I can't remember the name of it, but the idea was that you can create an identity on this blockchain and then you can have people vouch for your identity and all of those kind of things. And that way you can kind of get a sense for who is, the person, who, me, Jimmy Smoot, am tied to this particular crypto key or whatever. Problem is, who's the first person that you trust on the system, right? So, and you could say, oh, it's the founder or whatever. Yeah, but then that you might as well have just trusted the founder to then, dish out identities to everybody. That's the interesting thing about this is at the beginning, a lot of times of these blockchain concepts, you require some major trust event to occur, and once you have that major trust event occur, then then you're good technically. But that's not true at all because, if I'm the founder or the person who created this blockchain and I decide to lie about the, friend's identity because he pays me or something, then you're kind of in a situation where, no, now that guy is actually running around giving identities to other people, and he's not necessarily who he said he was. So It's a huge issue. And you might say, oh, well, that existed with, Bitcoin and Satoshi and everything, but it did not, because first of all of the code in the actual the Bitcoin core stuff, all of that stuff is auditable. You can go up and look at Bitcoin D, and people can actually read the actual code if you understand how to read code. If you don't, though, you can go get the knowledge and come back and read it. It's just a limitation on scale. It's not like it's completely opaque and you just cannot read it at all. The second thing is, Satoshi purposely didn't tell us who he or they or whatever is. And as a result, we don't have to trust Satoshi, to do anything. They just created this wonderful technology. They announced it. They talked a bit on the forums about it and released it, and it kind of just took off on its own. So the Oracle problem is a big problem, and you can't really solve it. I don't think at all. I don't think there's really any solution for it, because you always depend on outside sources. I mean, I think another great example of an Oracle issue is people talk about like exchanges, like people doing exchanges online, decentralized exchanges, where you do something like you're selling option or derivative contracts based on weather or something. Well, how do you get the weather on the blockchain? Like, there's no way to getting the weather on the blockchain, right? Oh, you say, we'll just have a bunch of people, put the weather on the blockchain. Well, what if it's in the best interest for a bunch of people to lie about the weather because they'll get paid for it, right? That's where it kind of gets, kind of crazy and it kind of starts to fall apart. What happens if the weather source goes away and you can't verify that weather source 150 years from now, which you actually have to do? That's the thing about the blockchain as well, is you should be able to, by the chain itself, you should be able to go through every transaction and to yourself prove that each transaction was the correct transaction. You shouldn't be like, oh, well, weather.gov is gone because that was a U.S. entity and the U.S. no longer exists. That's a huge issue. So Oracle problem is a big problem, and I'll probably talk some more about it. But just kind of wanted to put that in your head so you can kind of have that with you when you're looking at some of these ICO projects. Have a good one.